when we talk about the 2019 season, when it comes to the Buffalo Bills, you're talking about a team that was so close, but yet so far away for what they wanted to achieve. You're talking about a Bills team that last year was one of the worst teams in the league. Even though they had a really good defense, the offense was absolutely putrid. Coming into this season, you signed Cole Beasley, you signed John Brown. You pretty much you got four guys off the offensive line position in Ty Nsekhe. You picked up Mitch Morse. You picked up Matt Feliciano. You picked up Spencer Long as well. Really, Deion Dawkins was really the only returning starter. Quintin Spain was a guy that they picked up from the Tennessee Titans. Dawson, so Dawson Knox was a guy that you drafted. So really, the entire offensive package was pretty much changed, and it needed to be, because last year's the offense was extremely bad. But the Buffalo Bills definitely improved their numbers in 2019. Now, it's not where we want it to be. It's not what every Bills fans wants to be, because they're still in the 20s in almost every single major category except for rushing yards, which they finished in 10th in, which they honestly could have got more if we decided to run the ball a little bit more often. But the most important thing is that you did see improvement in the offense. As far as the defensive side of the ball, the defense was once again elite. Matter of fact, I actually think it was better. Now, of course, if you look at the numbers, the Buffalo Bills were number one in yards allowed. But this year, I think this year they're around fifth. But still, if you watched every Bills game, you know damn well the defense was a upgrade from last year's. You saw a huge jump in Tremaine Edmonds' productivity when it came to his rookie season to this year. You saw some huge productivity again from Matt Milano, who had a torn ACL in 2018. He bounced back and had a Pro Bowl caliber type of season. Tre'Davious White arguably became the best cornerback in football this year with his play. You saw Jordan Poyer and Micah Hyde. They played absolutely great. Teron Johnson was a pretty good nickel corner. There was some questions about Levi Wallace and Kevin Johnson, but I think ultimately they played well enough that the Buffalo Bills became one of the best secondaries in the league. Jordan Phillips was absolutely phenomenal. Who would expect Jordan Phillips to have the type of year that he had? You're talking about a guy in Harrison Phillips that was supposed to be at that spot, that was supposed to help out, that was supposed to be in that spot to fill in when it comes to Ed Oliver. And Jordan Phillips, a guy that was third at the depth chart, became a guy that finished the season with 9.5 sacks. He had 16.5 tackles for loss. He had one of the best defensive tackle seasons when it came to the 2019 season. He arguably should have made the Pro Bowl. He was one of the best defensive tackles in the league. And you're talking about a guy that gets double teamed, the triple team at times. As far as productivity, when it came to Jerry Hughes, he was all right. He's not what he was, I would say, 2 or 3 years ago, but he had a good enough season. Trent Murphy had an underwhelming season. He had a great playoff game against the Texans, but I would say his season overall was underwhelming. Starla Tulele was much as he's more of that tube gapper, takes on the blocks. But he had a much improved season, I would say, from last year, and they gave that dude big time money. Ed Oliver, what a hell of a season did he have? You're talking about a guy that had 5.5 sacks, had close to 9 tackles for loss. He had one hell of a rookie season, and you're talking about a guy that was picked, I think around 9th or 10th, while Quintin Williams was picked 3rd, and he outperformed the hell out of Quintin Williams. And Quintin Williams was supposed to be this generational player. Now, trust me, I'm a Bama fan, so I love Quintin Williams, but Ed Oliver outplayed Quintin Williams. I think that those two defensive tackles will be stars when it comes to the next decade, but Ed Oliver outplayed the crap out of Quintin Williams. The defense overall wise improved as a whole, from sacks, when it came to almost every statistical category except for maybe yards allowed, including a rushing defense, which that's Buffalo's biggest weakness. It was rush defense. So the fact that the Buffalo Bills went from around a mediocre 17th, 18th middle in the pack, which they've always been, to now being 10th in the league in rushing yards allowed is absolutely pretty. That's a big jump compared to what they were in previous years. So pretty much this year was a major improvement. It was a major improvement compared to last year. Not only when it came to your record, but when it came to offensive statistics and defensive statistics, it was a huge jump. Now, the Buffalo Bills were also a better team than I think a lot of Bills fans and what NFL fans give them credit for, because you're talking about games like the Cleveland Browns, which they should have won. You're talking about the Baltimore Ravens, which they gave up opportunities to win that game. The Texans game, for God's sake, is the game that the Buffalo Bills should have won and been in the divisional round against the Kansas City Chiefs. Against the either the Chiefs or the Baltimore Ravens. You're also talking about the New England Patriots. They were two Those two games were very extremely close games, which the Buffalo, especially the first game, which the Bills should have won if Josh Allen maybe never would have got hurt. You're talking about this team was this close from winning the damn division. But it was just tweaks here and there when it came to lack of execution or when it just came to simply just bad luck, which ultimately screwed the Buffalo Bills from winning the division. But even though that they finished 10-6, even though they finished as a wild card, you have got to be happy with your football team because, again, the Bills should have had a better record than what their record actually indicates. They could have had 11 or 12 wins this year. They could have won the division. They could have moved on to the divisional round or maybe play even further than that. Who knows? But you got to love the upside. And you also going into the offseason, there's really not a lot of things that a lot of major pieces that you can literally say, oh my God, if we don't get this player, we're absolutely screwed. So you got to be happy as that as a Bills fan. Now, as in terms of what the Buffalo Bills can do during the offseason, of course, there are some major assets that the Buffalo Bills would love to have in order to make their team take a step further instead of just being a wild card team, maybe take it a step further to being a division champion or even further. Definitely the number one thing that they need is a receiver. They definitely need a wide receiver. There is no question about it. John Brown, Cole Beasley, and Dawson Knox, extremely good. And I'm talking about those guys were huge upgrades compared to last year, but they need better. They need whether if it's a speedster, whether if it's a big physical tall possession type of catcher, whether if it's a great route runner, whether if it's adding another great route runner when it comes to the offensive scheme, whether if it's the short intermediate throw type concepts. The Buffalo Bills need another receiver. And whether if you get a guy like a T. Higgins, whether if it's a Laviska Shenault, whether if it's a Justin Jefferson, whether if it's a Jalen Reagor, doesn't really matter. They need a receiver. You also look at free agency. Amari Cooper is the big guy. The Dallas Cowboys are not in love with Amari Cooper. I think they'll let him go. I don't think they will sign him. The Buffalo Bills has almost $90 million in cap. I think they can afford Amari Cooper. You get that number one primetime receiver option for your Buffalo Bills. And then you can still draft another receiver like a potential T. Higgins or Laviska Shenault. It goes from being one of the worst receiving corps to potentially being one of the best receiving corps based off productivity and based off talent. So the receiving position is definitely a thing that they need to address during the offseason. I think that the offensive tackle, Cody Ford, pretty much stepped in there. I think that he definitely... I'm not going to say he played well, but I'm not going to say he played absolutely terrible. I know he had that bad game against the Texans, but he was all right. I think he's a guy that can still develop. He's still developing, especially as a tackle. He did come in as a little raw, as a guy that's a physical run blocker, but not a great pass protector. So I think that we should give him another chance. But tackle is a position that they can also look in the draft or when it comes to the offseason. The guard position is something I think they can take a look at, whether if you're going to resign Quinn Spain or let him go to free agency. He might ask for a little bit too much. So you can look at guard as a potential option. Edge rusher is a huge thing that I think the Buffalo Bills can address. Of course, Jerry Hughes, he's getting older. Trent Murphy, he's kind of underperformed a little bit. Lorenzo Alexander, as far as being that hybrid outside linebacker to edge rusher, he's retired now. So the Buffalo Bills can definitely address the edge rusher position, whether if it's in the draft or whether if it's a free agency. Speaking of the outside linebacking position, you need that third guy there. I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Buffalo Bills maybe go late in the draft or maybe somewhere in the line along the lines of free agency, get a potential Lorenzo Alexander player that has a lot of experience, but can also play at a very, very high level as well. The running back position. This was one of the more frustrating things because not because of play, because Devin Singletary was absolutely phenomenal. He exceeded all my expectations. It was the fact that we didn't give him the ball as much, and his complement back in Frank Gore just wasn't that guy. He just wasn't that guy. He was that type of dude that would get the ball 8-9 times, and he would average around 2-3 yards a carry. The Buffalo Bills can't have it. I think they get a guy, whether if it's in free agency or whether if you address in the draft. This is a very, very deep running back draft class, so I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Buffalo Bills get one in the draft. But I think the running back position is definitely an area need where the Buffalo Bills could definitely upgrade. And you pair up a potential DeAndre Swift or a Travis Etienne or a Jonathan Taylor, A.J. Dillon, or a Kyle Vaughn or a Kylan Hill, and you pair that up with Devin Singletary, you're talking about a dangerous combo for the next 3 to 4 years. Really, really helps. But there are, of course, areas that an improvement that they can do. I also think that they can also take a look at offensive coordinator. I know people are not fans of this. I'm not a big fan of Brian Daboll. Trust me, I've been dealing with Brian Daboll for 4 years as a Bama fan, so I can tell you I am not the biggest fan of Brian Daboll. I've never have. But he has shown improvement. Josh Allen has shown improvement. The offense has shown improvement. Even though we're still in the 20s, he has. So I think that if you're Sean McDermott, you got to think, well, I don't want to continue to be in the 20s. Do I try to find an upgrade in offensive coordinator, right? Whether if it's going down to the collegiate ranks or whether if it's going down to the NFL ranks and trying to find maybe a better offensive coordinator than Brian Daboll. Who knows? That's just something to think about. I don't think they will, but it's something that I think Sean McDermott would definitely think about when it comes to improving your offense to where it needs to be. Because you had a championship caliber defense. It was your offense that really was holding your team back from winning games. So, that's something that I think Sean McDermott is definitely going to think about when it comes to trying to upgrade your team in a really good position. The draft, can't really wait for it. Brandon Beane, the Pagulas have done a phenomenal job when it comes to this organization, this team. Again, the best record we've had in over 20 in my lifetime at least, and I'm excited for the future. So anyway, guys, let me know below the comment sections what the Buffalo Bills will do in order to improve their football team. I definitely want to have a conversation with you guys about it, because at the end of the day, we all as Bills fans want to see our team potentially compete for championships, and I think that's obviously the main goal, not just making the wild card playoffs. We've been here twice. It's now time to raise the bar, have higher expectations, and it's time to look at a much higher goal as far as competing for championships goes. So anyway, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. This is Gent716. I really would appreciate it if you guys would like the video, share the video, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. Really helps out the channel, and that's all I got. So anyway, guys, I'm out. Peace. Go Bills.